The 14th century had its share of conflicts, but very few could match the longevity of the Hundred Years' War. It lasted over 116 years, waged across 3 lengthy periods. The first ranged from 1337 to 1360, but even with this massive clash, something else overtook society at large: the Black Death. A plague spread by rats, exacerbated by filthy living conditions at the time. Its impact was utterly devastating, with tens of millions dead. Few video games have really delved into this era, and for good reason. Between the persecution, the rise of humanism, and the development of medicine, it was a dark, depressing time where death could come from anywhere at any time, and no one was safe. So taking that setting and portraying it from the perspective of 2 younger characters, Horrified doesn't even begin to describe how your average parent, /uncle, /aunt, /older sibling would have felt. But A Plague Tale: Innocence was different. It didn't go overboard with the horror or exploit it for shock value. It told a very human story about Amicia and Hugo de Rune, 2 siblings thrust into a situation that defies words, and put Asobo Studio on the map. And whether you wanted to know or not, it pushed the boundaries for how many rats could simultaneously appear on screen in a video game. The answer is 5,000, by the way, and that was on previous generation hardware. With Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy out this August, and taking a different perspective, there's no better time than the present to revisit where it all began. November 1348, Aquitaine, when King Philip VI and Edward III engaged in a power struggle about 11 years prior, the Hundred Years' War began. In the background, seemingly away from it all, Amicia, the elder daughter, is keen on becoming a knight. While out hunting with her father, Robert, in the forest, she attempts to destroy 6 rotten apples growing on a tree with her sling to prove her prowess. She then chases after the family dog Lion, suddenly spotting an animal but failing to take it out after some sneaking. Pursuing her faithful canine who's gone ahead, Amicia arrives at a desiccated part of the woods. After happening upon the animal, which has been slaughtered, she discovers her dog, injured and dragged into a hole by some mysterious force. Aggrieved by the entire ordeal, the pair returns home. Amicia goes to convene with her mother, Beatrice, while her father takes care of other business. While wandering around, she hears others talking about English troops on the move, and some even being bitten. After finding her mother and trying to explain what happened, Beatrice suddenly walks to the window and orders Amicia to stay with her brother and not peek out, no matter what happens. It's at this point that we learn a bit more about Hugo. He's ill, though with what is unknown. Beatrice has committed to his care and isolating him, which means the siblings haven't interacted much. How much progress her mother actually made in creating a cure is unknown, but that's the least of Amicia's problems. Looking out the window, Amicia sees Nicholas, a leader in the Inquisition, questioning her father about Hugo's whereabouts. Robert responds, in good hands, and is slain, much to her horror.
Did he talk?
No, Lord Nicholas. He killed 2 of our men!
Where is he? I won't ask again. Where is your son?
In good hands.
The rest of the troops storm the house, slaughtering the servants and searching for Amicia and Hugo. They manage to escape and reunite with Beatrice and Lambert, a servant of the family. Hugo goes on ahead to hide, while Beatrice tells Amicia to take him to Laurentius, a doctor who helped with the treatment. It's not long before Nicholas happens upon them, though, and holding the door behind them, Beatrice seemingly dies at the Inquisitor's hands, his bloody blade piercing through the door. Despite witnessing the deaths of her parents, Amicia takes Hugo and moves on to a village, frantically knocking on different doors, asking for help, before one villager tells her that they're not wanted. Amid the confusion of it all, and seeing signs of quarantined households, the siblings happen upon an immolation in progress, whereby the villagers, led by Conrad Malfort, blame them for the dirty vermin that have invaded. Amicia and Hugo flee and happen to find shelter at an old woman's place. She tells them about the plague and how it claimed many of the villagers' lives, but it seems she's aware of Laurentius. After Hugo throws a tantrum, Amicia angrily reveals the fate of their parents. Not believing her, he flees into the streets as she gives chase. It's not long before she sees Hugo caught by Conrad, who accused them of spreading the plague, only now he's in a full suit of armor. Using her sling, Amicia strips his armor and eventually kills him, but there's little time to celebrate their reunion as the villagers resume their pursuit. With the help of Thomas, they escape, as he informs them of the sickness that took hold of their village. And unfortunately, it's not long before the siblings meet the cause, the rats. Hundreds upon hundreds of hungry, ravenous rats flowing forth and snuffing out every single light source, save for the torch in Amicia's hand. The swarm devours Thomas, and the siblings make their way through, realizing the light keeps them safe. Knocking down braziers and ham to either create space or distract the rats, clambering over tables pushed together, it's a nightmare, and they barely escape when the hordes break through the walls of a dim tunnel.
Amicia, I want to see Mommy. I don't want her to be dead.
Hugo.
I want her to come back.
Unfortunately, their journey continues with little respite as the Inquisition patrols their route to Laurentius. If all that wasn't enough, Hugo starts getting a severe headache, and it's all Amicia can do to carry him. Meanwhile, a soldier shouts that they should fall back, and by now you can probably guess what this means. Navigating the corpses of many dead animals, Amicia uses a torch to navigate through the field of rats. They eventually arrive at Laurentius' estate, but he's bedridden from the plague. He reveals that Hugo's blood contains an evil curse, one that flows through the family, and that he must go to Chateau d'Ombrage. Lucas, Laurentius' apprentice, joins the siblings and is tasked with recovering something called the ignifer from the barn. This is of course easier said than done when the rats break through, prompting Amicia to distract them. Upon retrieving the ignifer, revealed to be an alchemical mix that lets her light fires from afar, they exit the barn, only to find that the rats hit the distilling tanks in Laurentius' house, causing an explosion. Despite Lucas wanting to run in after his master, Amicia stops him, and they navigate through the field of rats, eventually reaching a rowboat and escaping. During the ride, Lucas reveals that the curse in Hugo's blood was considered the first corruption by the alchemist called the Prima Macula. While it lay dormant, hopping from one bloodline to the next across various families, something called the Great Break caused it to awaken in Hugo. Beatrice and Laurentius were trying to find a cure, and while Amicia wonders if they failed, Lucas believes they just needed more time. In the meantime, he says the macula will evolve with its host to cause great change, whatever that means. As they stop on the riverbank planning to hoof it to reach the chateau, it's not long before they face a barren wasteland teeming with rats. Though English soldiers captured the Runes, the siblings Melier and Arthur, who have been eking out a living as thieves after escaping their abusive father, saved them. Regrouping at an abandoned house with Melier, the Inquisition eventually catches up to them. To make matters worse, Arthur, who used an explosive to help Amicia escape earlier, hasn't returned. Together with Melier, they continue, taking out soldiers and eventually reuniting with Lucas. It's revealed that Arthur was captured and taken to the Inquisition's bastion. They continue regardless, avoiding the rats and whatnot before arriving at the chateau at long last. Lucas reveals that much of the research conducted by Beatrice and Laurentius was inspired by a forbidden book known as the Sanguinis Itinera. Unfortunately, reaching the university basement where it's stored is nearly impossible with the Inquisition about. Together with Melier, who wants to rescue her brother Arthur, Amicia sets out, leaving Hugo with Lucas and hoping to leverage the plague's current chaos. They need to act fast, however, because Hugo is on the cusp of the macula's first threshold and could be lost in the process. Venturing into the university, Amicia witnesses the Grand Inquisitor Vitalis questioning Roderick, the son of a blacksmith. Vitalis appears infected and is questioning him about some kind of door that Roderick built with his father. She then hears a few guards talking about how Vitalis will open this door with the book, and Hugo to achieve the conjuration, thus saving them all from this plague. After helping Roderick escape, he guides Amicia to an underground library beneath the university's regular library, where the Sanguinis Itinera is located. But just as soon as she retrieves it, the Inquisition waltzes in with Vitalis in tow. He knows Amicia and reveals that the Inquisition has been watching the family for some time, waiting for the macula in Hugo to awaken. While she declares her goal of saving Hugo, Vitalis claims that he can save the world if he possessed the book and the boy. Roderick pulls Amicia away and they flee, making it past the Inquisition to return to the chateau. Time passes, and unfortunately the macula seems to be progressing faster than expected in Hugo. Lucas can't process the cure without a more advanced laboratory, and Amicia suggests her mother's back at the de Rune estate. Around the same time, Méliès returns with Arthur, whom she successfully rescued from the Bastion. However, he heard of another prisoner, Beatrice de Rune, confirming that the sibling's mother is alive, but she faces constant questioning and torture from Vitalis about Hugo's location. Despite her concern, Amicia says that the group shouldn't tell Hugo, unaware that he's at the top of the stairs inside the chateau, listening. Suddenly, he collapses, the threshold seemingly nearing, and so Amicia and Lucas make to return to the de Rune's estate to create a cure for him. Finding her home in ruins, Amicia and Lucas discover her father's corpse. More curiously, however, the rats have grown more intelligent, swirling together in clusters, knocking over a stationary torch. Amicia stops more clusters from forming and clears a path forward, making it to Beatrice's study and then Hugo's room, which has been curiously left untouched. Lucas reveals that the potions and solutions aren't what he's looking for, and that there must be a secret laboratory somewhere. They venture to the Roman ruins, fighting off newly formed rat clusters and lighting the way forward past the swarm. Upon reaching the same spot where the siblings parted with their mother, Amicia discovers Lambert's corpse, surmising that he took the hit from Nicholas's sword instead of Beatrice. Strangely enough, however, none of the corpses in the de Rune household has been desecrated by the rats. The two venture into the ruins and, after some puzzle solving, discover Beatrice's hidden laboratory, where she came close to concocting an elixir to cure Hugo. It's left to Lucas to finish it while Amicia defends him against a sudden onslaught of rats. One pitched battle later, the remedy is complete, and strangely the rats halt and let the two leave. They return to the chateau and administer the remedy to Hugo, who asks Amicia again if they won't see their mother again. Forced to lie, she answers in the negative and everyone goes off to sleep. The next day, however, Hugo is gone. Amicia sets out to find him, only to hit her head in the wilderness and fall unconscious. She dreams about the places and people they've already met along the way, including her mother, who reveals that he ran away because of the lies. After this version of Hugo lashes out, Amicia awakens and resumes her search. She eventually finds him caged by the Inquisition, but despite taking out the guards and freeing him, Amicia still can't be honest with him. Hearing Beatrice's voice, Hugo breaks away, prompting Amicia to give chase. They arrive at the de Rune estate mysteriously and venture into a dark hole where she sees rats swarming and futilely attempting to traverse them, only to see Nicholas taking Hugo away. Cut to Hugo's actual location, and it's revealed that he went to the Inquisition. They extract his blood and plan to use it on Vitalis so that he can obtain the power of the macula. Thanks to the elixir, however, that is impossible, but he's not bothered, confident that Hugo will reach to the next threshold of the macula. Meanwhile, Hugo smacks through, trying to find Beatrice and spotting some strange white rats in captivity, which the Inquisition is feeding human remains for some reason. After locating her, he sets out to find the keys to her cell, and they finally reunite. Things are far from well though, as Hugo reveals that his head talks to him, telling him to join it, which she believes to be the first threshold. She encourages him to embrace the voices, granting him control over the plague rats and allowing them to advance. Hugo reveals that he can feel the black rats, but not the white for some reason. He then questions why he has this very power, to which Beatrice answers that the blood ultimately decides. Unfortunately, they walk into a trap, where Vitalis claims that Hugo is destined to be by his side. Along with releasing a swarm of rodents, Nicholas orders his men to kill Beatrice, but Hugo uses the rats to slay them. The real purpose of this exercise is for Vitalis to try and push Hugo to his limits and reach the first threshold. Weakened and unable to maintain control, Hugo falls to his knees as the Inquisition halts their efforts. Beatrice is taken away, but Vitalis is confident in being able to use Hugo. Now we go back to Amicia, who's just waking up in the chateau, to Lucas and Méliès. Out for 3 days and near death, it seems that the sight of Hugo being taken away by Nicholas was another dream. But after no sign of her brother, she asked to be left alone. A month passes by and we see Amicia overlooking the ramparts, telling herself to stop daydreaming because the rats will return. Accepting that Hugo isn't coming back, she works with Roderick and Arthur to prep the pit in case of an incursion. which arrives almost immediately and in numbers unlike anything they've seen before. With the pit overrun, Amicia manages to escape and reunite with the rest, but before they depart, she sees Nicholas entering with Hugo, who's controlling the rats. Realizing his power, the group tries to escape, but the Inquisition cuts them off. Amicia is brought before Hugo, as Nicholas tells him to kill her or else Beatrice will die. Hugo doesn't act, prompting Nicholas to try and take matters into his own hands. Thankfully, Arthur drops a scaffolding of rocks on him, leaving Amicia to try and reach out to her brother. Despite his anger and the swirling rats, she embraces Hugo, and things are seemingly alright between them. That is, however, until Nicholas recovers and kills Arthur, prompting the de Rune siblings to team up and slay him. Obviously, the next goal is Vitalis, and so the group set out. Méliès and Lucas lead the Inquisition on a merry chase through the streets, while Roderick, Amicia, and Hugo make their way through. Despite taking out a hefty number of soldiers, Roderick ends up injured and sacrifices himself to raise the portcullis and get the siblings inside. Now joined by Lucas and Méliès, who express surprise at Hugo's powers, they venture forth and finally reach Vitalis. Beatrice, trapped in a cage, says he's already passed the threshold, with the corpses of several innocents seemingly the result. But while Hugo has the black rats on his side, Vitalis reveals his not-so-secret weapon, control over the white rats seen earlier, who aren't afraid of the light. The two sides clash, Amicia destroying fallen braziers to let the black rats pass, while Hugo forms them into clusters to push forward. Not to be outdone, Vitalis utilizes the very same tactic, but it's not enough to stop the de Rune siblings. Eventually, he causes them all to converge on himself, creating a giant pillar to try and smash Amicia. Together with Hugo, they ultimately neutralize Vitalis, who bleeds out on the floor. Cut to some time later, and the pair are walking through a snowy village. People have begun returning, and the rats have mysteriously cleared out. Though meant to meet up with Lucas, Hugo wants to visit the ferry in town. The problem is, two men hesitantly stop them, telling Amicia that a kid and his sister are wanted by important people. She ultimately decides to take Hugo and leave, and despite having a fun race to the cart, he wonders why people look at him strangely, including Méliès, who has left the group. With their mother in tow, resting to regain her strength, the siblings and Lucas venture into the countryside, searching for a new castle, or really any new place to be, the horrors of the plague behind them, at least until a Plague Tale Requiem, where their long-standing peace is seemingly interrupted, but at least they won't have to go it alone. Well, that's it for part 1. When we come back, we will take a look at the events of a Plague Tale Requiem. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.